Before we get into the video, really quick, I just wanted to say I'm excited to announce that we've launched merchandise. We've got Hoops Reference shirts, shorts, sweatshirts, sweatpants, hats, phone cases, and mugs, and along with the classic logo design, we also have a fantastic box logo design that I'm really happy about regarding how it came out. This is all available at hoopsreference.store, which is both displayed on the screen now and linked down in the description of this video. So if any of these beautiful items are catching your eye, then go check out the shop and buy some official Hoops Reference clothing to support the channel. Thank you, now let's get back to the video. So, it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, not only did a ton of incredible things go down in the NBA world, but we also saw the beginning of March Madness, where some of the top prospects in the country who will be looking to improve their draft stock also began their journeys on the biggest stage, so of course we have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Worldwide Boss, and he says that Michael Porter Jr. is going to end up being a glorified Jabari Parker throughout his career. This is probably a pretty harsh way to word it, but looking past the abrasive way he described this, I do unfortunately see some similarities to their careers early on that could prove to be worrisome for Nuggets fans. Jabari Parker, like Michael Porter Jr., was one of the top-ranked high school recruits in his class. He was hyped up as the next Carmelo Anthony in his day, and was drafted number 2 overall, expected to be a superstar in the league because of his elite scoring ability and explosiveness for a forward. The issue, though, was that he got destroyed by injuries, suffering multiple ACL tears that set him back time and time again in the NBA. Early in Jabari's career, he was looking like a potential star, and he averaged 20 points per game in his 3rd season, but the injuries greatly hampered his burst. Without it, he couldn't score as effectively as he used to, and his weaknesses, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, got even more exposed from it. Michael Porter Jr. is heading down a very eerily similar route, as he too was one of the top prospects in the country coming out of high school. He was supposed to be one of the top picks in his draft class before he suffered a back injury that resulted in him slipping to the middle of the 1st round. He had a big 3rd season in the league where he averaged about 19 points per game, but now the injury bug is back. Injuries are the absolute worst things to happen in sports because it prevents us from being able to see players live up to their full potential, and while I really hope that isn't going to be the case with Michael Porter Jr., it would be foolish to completely ignore the warning signs. Even when healthy, Porter Jr. was also a liability on the defensive end, so he needs to be an elite shooter and scorer to justify his role in the team, and having just been paid a max contract extension on top of that puts even more pressure on him. Nobody wants him to be the next Jabari Parker, but the writing seems to be on the wall, and these kind of injuries can linger, so we'll just have to wait and see how he performs when he gets back out there. Now before we get into the next one, I want to thank Prize Picks for sponsoring this video. Prize Picks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here, because when you're involved, it makes watching games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, and 3-pointers made amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount or under the set amount they give you. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making for today's slate of games, I'm thinking of going with Steven Adams to score over 9.5 points, Keldon Johnson to score over 19.5 points, and Robert Williams to grab over 8.5 rebounds. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of the video to sign up today, and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Erickson, and he says that if everyone is healthy for the Lakers by the time the playoffs start and they get the right matchup, they can still have a chance to win the West and make the finals. When LeBron James is on your team, people will always want to give you the benefit of the doubt, and historically they are justified in doing so, because for a long time he's been carrying teams to the highest level of success. Father Time does eventually play his part though, and we begin to see that last season when they lost to the Suns in the first round. The Lakers had a better team last year, and they still lost to the Suns in that first round. Yes, they were up in the series 2-1 until Anthony Davis got hurt, but LeBron's days as someone who can just put a team on his back and carry a bunch of scrubs are unfortunately behind him. He's 37 years old, and while he is still showing that he can score with the best of them and go off on any given night with the 50-point games he's been scoring recently, this Lakers team around him right now is even worse than it was before. The premise here is that they can compete when healthy, but the Lakers still have a losing record in the games that Anthony Davis played this season, and the fit with Russell Westbrook has been shaky all season long. I will admit that this is probably the weakest that the Western Conference has been top to bottom in years, and the power has shifted to the East for now, but even with that said, the Suns and the Warriors are legitimate title contenders when they're healthy at the top, and I don't really think any other team in the West has a real shot to win the conference at this point in time. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from G, and he says that Jaren Jackson Jr. is the most underrated player in the entire NBA right now. Jaren is a pretty peculiar player in the league because he's having a pretty quiet season. There are some areas that he hasn't quite been as good as expected, but then at the same time, his importance to the Grizzlies' unbelievable success this season cannot be undersold. Jaren Jackson Jr. has become one of the best defensive talents not only on the Grizzlies but in the entire NBA. The Grizzlies are the 7th ranked defensive team in the league right now, and Jackson Jr.'s impact is all over how they got there. He provides unbelievable versatility as a rim protector that can be switchable out onto the perimeter. He's averaging 2.2 blocks per game, which is good for 3rd best in the league, but in terms of total blocks on the season, he actually has the most in the league. He ranks 2nd in the NBA in defended field goal percentage, meaning that he holds his matchup to a worse field goal percentage than anyone besides one other player. He also contests the 3rd most 3-point shots amongst big men, showing his versatility too. He legitimately deserves to be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, and the fact that he really isn't, with no buzz around him for the award, definitely demonstrates how underrated he is. The weird part though is that offensively, he was supposed to be a reliable spot-up shooting, floor-spacing big man, yet he's making just 31% of his threes on the season. Meanwhile, he's actually a much improved finisher around the basket on the inside. So yes, he is drastically underrated right now, and his improvements have actually come in some of the more underestimated areas of his game. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.